Hello everyone, I am DeoGenZ and welcome to my first episode of my brand new series here on this channel, DeoGenZ's Gaming Gauntlet. What this is my YouTube podcast. I have another podcast on my website, what'sinsidemyhead.com. However, that's an audio-only podcast, and without Wi-Fi, I've solely been relying on my Android device to upload videos through 3G, and unfortunately, my website's not as intuitive as YouTube systems are. So to do a Cortex cast is really taxing and unable to be done effectively. I mean, the last one I had was months ago, and although it was a great one with an awesome guest, it really isn't great to see that there's only like 3 podcasts up there. It looks like I'm not serious about podcasting, but I really am. But I seriously don't have Wi-Fi. So this is the middle ground. Plus, a little bit different from Cortex Cast, I'm still going to have that going. It's just going to be a matter of when I can get it up and if I can have Wi-Fi near me. But the difference is going to be mainly, that's going to be more of a philosophical podcast where I discuss my ideas that don't have much to do with gaming. This podcast is going to be solely about gaming. Nothing but gaming. There's going to be some philosophy in there, but that's going to be in the form of an old video series that I used to do that didn't really take off, but you guys did enjoy it. The only reason it didn't take off was I just didn't keep up with it. But that was the gaming philosophy videos. I did one on driving, I did one on a couple of other things, I'm not sure. But this week's topic will be RPGs. Why are they so damn addicting? Why? We're going to discuss that later. But I'm going to mesh that kind of topic into it, so there's going to be some of my ideas that are more out there, but it's nothing going to be mind-shattering and going to ruin your day. But the good thing is, it's just about gaming. I'm going to talk about the games that I've been playing, games that are coming out, news that excites me. One thing you should take in mind, though, is this won't be a reliable podcast to update you on all things gaming news. I used to do gaming news podcasts with Nintendo Radio, with Gamers Cast, but the problem with it is, especially without having Wi-Fi, is if I have no news source, and if I have nothing to kind of collect it all for me to spit back in your face and say, oh, look, that's interesting, without that ability, I really can't deliver you guys solid news every week. So I'm not going to make that promise. What I will tell you is, though, news that crosses my eyes, things that you guys update me with on Twitter. You can follow me at DeoGenZ. I'll probably talk about that if it's interesting enough. And things I hear down the grapevine, I was about to say the vape grind. Funny how you can mix up words. But things like that I will mention. For example, Minecraft 1.1. That has come out this week. I have not updated it, though. That's what I'm talking about. With my limited access to Wi-Fi, only when I go to school, and I'll talk to you later about why even that's somewhat of a trouble. It's just really hard to get news. So, news I do care about. News, let's start off with first, to get that out of the way. Pokemon news. There is a Rayquaza event coming. On February 10th to February 27th, a special Rayquaza will be available. How will it be available? I'm not entirely sure. Reading Cerebi, they say it's going to be in-store. I don't know if that means in-store for the Dream World or in stores like in Toys R Us or GameStop. So stay tuned, keep watching these podcasts. I definitely care about Pokemon news, and Cerebi is the one site that I easily can check on my Android device all the time. And I know they're dependable too, so that's one of my big main sources. I have no problems letting you know where I find this stuff because you might find something on the site that I might have missed, and that's awesome if you can comment back with something that you cared about this week that I may have just skipped over. So what's interesting about this Rayquaza, it's at level 100. That's not the fascinating part. That's really average these days if you go on Global Trade System. But its moves are Hyper Beam, Dragon Pulse, Extreme Speed, and get ready for this one, V-Create. That's right, Victini's move. The only Pokemon to have V-Create is now not the only one exclusively. Now Rayquaza can have it. Pretty interesting. And I'm really pumped with this idea. This is what makes me think that this is more of a Dream World ability thing, or it's not going to be in physical stores, but I can't discount it. It might. What I love about the remixing of events and the fact that they can release them over the Dreamland at any time, what I find so amusing about that is it really throws a lot of monkey wrenches. It really throws a lot of blips into the metagame. People who are expecting Rayquaza for, say, an Uber battle, they might not even fathom that it would have V-Create. Now, you have to take that into account. Does this Rayquaza possess a masterful fire move that is more effective than Fire Blast, hits harder, and more accurate? Well, we'll have to find out. But that's what I love about Nintendo and the Pokemon Company constantly releasing things over Wi-Fi. That's the best. I'm really tired of going to stores and sitting around all day to get a download. And no, it takes about 5 seconds, but when I go, I'm obsessive. I'm a Pokemaniac. And what I like to do is copy multiple amounts of Pokemon, which I can't even do in the black and white generation, to be honest with you, because I only have the Japanese white version and then the English English black version. I forgot for a moment which Zekrom and Reshiram was in which one. I have that version, and I can't restart them as quickly as I did in the past. I'm tired of buying the same game over, and I'm tired of waiting around and copying the same Pokemon over. The reason I did that was not to be a hoarder. It's really absolutely useless for me to have a box full of, say, Arceus or Deoxys, but running a Pokemon YouTube channel like this, I love to do competitions every once in a while, and now that I'm doing this podcast every single week, at least once a week, I can't tell you which day it's going to be on every time, but I can assure you it's going to be once a week, I hope. I will try my best. But, that's really awesome, so I can have more competitions through my podcast. And I'm thinking of doing something for my next segment that would allow you guys to get your hands on some of these collectible Pokemon I received. See, my idea with it is that it's kind of like a limited resource, and if you can mass produce it while you have the shot, you can provide that resource to more people in the Poke community who might not have had a chance, who might not be near a GameStop or Toys R Us that's in a reasonable distance within their house, or if it's a Wi-Fi event. For example, I've not gotten any downloadable Pokemon through Dreamland. It's really a shambles because I can't offer you guys anything recent and new that you would be interested in because I just can't download it. So, aside from that, I like the idea, and I want to see them enact that even more. I really think the Dream World overall with changing abilities, because Rayquaza has the same ability. It's got its pressure ability, which just makes users of the opposing side waste more power points when they attack, which is a good thing, and most legendaries have it. It's really a boring ability in my opinion. But what's awesome about the Dreamland is that it throws in some really awesome abilities that work spectacularly for some altered movesets for some Pokemon. Now, there are some Pokemon that have the Dream World ability that it doesn't even benefit them that much, or it could, but you're going to have to take a completely different approach to it all. So, moving on, the next bit of news is Nobunaga's Ambition. On Cerebi's site, they posted a trailer up there. I don't think it's a trailer so much as it is just kind of a little PSA about how the game runs. It's in Japanese, so I really can't translate much of anything. But what I can see from the pictures is that Pokemon are confirmed to evolve, so that's really always a good thing. It's something that kind of pissed me off about the Mystery Dungeon series, is that you had to wait until after the game was beaten, the main story, until you were able to evolve your partners. And for me, Pokemon is really majorly about evolution. It's getting to the next level so you could see the next form that you've unlocked with your hard work. So to not have that right from the onset is really frustrating, and it's good to see that this game that's coming out in spring of 2012, at least in Japan, it's good to see that they're going to enable that. Also, if you do decide to import the game, or if you're living in Japan now and you pick it up, you're going to be able to get a shiny Rayquaza card. This is very tantalizing and making me want to import the game greatly. Besides the fact that it's a game that I'd like to LP on this channel. Hopefully I can understand what it is, though, because not being the typical RPG that we're used to of going to a laboratory, getting all the badges, defeating the Elite Four, yada yada yada, it's a real-time strategy game. And with that, I might need to know some Japanese, because there's a lot of characters, a lot of dialogue, and all that could really get me confused on where to go. But I'm pretty sure I can do it. We'll see. It will be a challenge, but if you want to pick up the game for yourself, you can get a shiny Rayquaza card, and it's shiny Rayquaza, not just holographic. I'm not just saying, ooh, shiny, glittery. No, it's black. It's freaking beast, and I want it. I really do. We're going to have to see what the funds are like around those times. Hopefully, my partnership checks will start coming in. Right now, I am at a deficit because of fucking college books. Absolutely ridiculous. I recommend Amazon Price Check as a side note, though. It's a great application you can get on most mobile devices, and what it does is it scans the barcode with the camera, and it will pull up on Amazon where you can buy that book and how much it's going to be. Just to give you a rough estimate of some of the deals you can find on there, my biology book was $150 used, okay, at the school store. And on Amazon's Price Check, it was $33 new. It's fucking price gouging, guys. And it's really pitiful and very telling for how the American education system runs. They don't want you to get educated. And I'll stay back from ranting on that topic, but use that application. It'll help you get a lot of great deals. Moving on, if you have Wi-Fi in your area, or you can go to a Wi-Fi cafe, a Crustal skin will be available for those of you with the Japanese versions of the games. Sorry, guys. It seems as though, just as a side note, that all these custom Sea Gear skins that they're releasing only come out for the Japanese. It's a bummer because I really like what these are, and I don't know if they're ever going to come out in other countries. So far, it hasn't seemed like they have. Although, of course, I've not been following it to the T. Me lacking Wi-Fi, I couldn't pick it up anyway. But if you have a Japanese version of the game, you can pick this Sea Gear skin up until February 29th, and it's a very cool picture. You could see a very awesome Crustal face. I really like Crustal. It's cool that they came up with another Hermit Crab Pokemon that's more of a crab, and not so much a, I don't even know what Slowbro is. But technically, Slowbro is a Hermit Crab Pokemon just because it's got a Shelder that turns into kind of like a cone-shaped Shelder when it attaches to Slowpoke's tail. The whole mechanics of that we learned in the anime, right? But it's very cool that they're making more of a Hermit Crab Pokemon that is a crab, because I always love Hermit Crabs. I used to have a giant Hermit Crab that was about as big as my hand, really. And it was in a blue shell. Its name was Hermie. Yeah, real original, I know. But I used to take that thing everywhere. That's right. I used to take my Hermit Crab places, and I would set up obstacle courses for it. And unfortunately, one day, I wasn't watching. And very much like Portal style, Hermie was like, I'm getting out of here. GLaDOS isn't looking. I'm out of here. Grabs the companion cube, takes the portal gun, and launched himself out to who knows where. I never even found his shell, so he must have went far. And it's funny because at the time I was living in more of a farm area, very far away from the beach. Now, of course, I live like a couple minutes away from the shore. But I do wonder where he went. Did he go into the woods and then adapt as a forest hermit crab, kind of forming some new species because he had to adapt to this new circumstance of being captured for so long and then freed in a sick obstacle course, which, you know, now that I think about it more and more, I really was like GLaDOS. I extremely was like GLaDOS. Now I will put you to the test. There will be cake on the other side. Oh, sorry. Just a moist sponge to keep you alive. Wow. Fucking A, man. But I do like hermit crabs a lot, so Crustal, it's good in my book. Going back to the talk about dragon-type Pokemon being Rayquaza and how you can get a Rayquaza card with Nobunaga's Ambition. There are now going to be dragon types in the Pokemon card game. That is something revolutionary. They are only affected by other dragons, which is very true to how it's played in the electronic versions of the games. However, there's not an ice type in the Pokemon card game, so your only way that you're going to get a weakness with these Pokemon is if you've got your own dragon on your own team. Very interesting, and I've kind of strayed away from the card game. I do unboxings and openings of cards and booster packs and things like that occasionally on this channel. I do that for nostalgia, but there's nobody around here to play with. There's people at my school who play cards, but they play Yu-Gi-Oh! And I'm not about to get back into Yu-Gi-Oh!, okay? Yu-Gi-Oh! Was a cool series, don't get me wrong, and I love the art. It's a lot more advanced, it seems, than Pokemon's art. But the problem was it became too ridiculous. It exclusively being a card game, the shows were only around to promote new cards, it seemed. Once they got into the GX era, and they moved from Yugi and Seto Kaiba and Pegasus and all those guys, they moved on. It just really lost me. The story was boring. I always expected the hero of the protagonist to win every time by pulling some random card that's going to, of course, just work in his favor. And then, of course, he's going to pull all the other cards that he needs. But anybody who's played a card game knows that rarely happens. And it's a minor miracle for, say, the Pokemon card game if you land all of your evolutionary cards in one hand. Wow, that's really intense. If you can get all 3 stages of your evolutionary Pokemon, that's going to be your main sweeper for that deck. That's a miracle. But yeah, they added way too many cards to Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm not about to learn how that game goes, but the Dragon type, for those of you who do play the card game, comment below. What do you think this is going to affect? I don't know really the mechanics of the card game underground, I suppose I could say, because I'm sure there are, just like in the Pokemon RPG series for DS and all the other electronic devices throughout Nintendo's years, there is a hardcore movement, the metagame, where people are focused on calculations, tough strategies, and team building. And I'm certain there's something similar in the card game era, or genre, I should say, not era, of Pokemon cards. So let me know if it really affects mechanics. I could see it being interesting. I could see it being strange, but I don't know if they're going to plan on releasing more card types. That's something that was very different about the card game from the electronic games, is that it was missing a whole bunch of types. They brought in some of the newer types like Steel type and Dark type to throw a wrench into the system, but bringing around a type that's been there since the first game, the Dragon type, that's really fascinating. I wonder what would happen if they introduced the Ice type, for example. Then, of course, Dragon cards would have to be altered, and then, I don't know, it's very strange, because once you put out a card, it's not going to change. It's not like you can shift your card from one deck to another, and similar to how you switched your Pokemon from GBA to DS and PAL Park, how their moves can shift and their mechanics can change. That can't happen with the card game. You're not going to see an old Dragonite card suddenly be weak to Rayquaza because it's now a Dragon type, and Dragon types are super effective against Dragon types. That was also something very annoying. I remember back in my card playing days that were brief, because there was a card store back in near my old house, was that you had to argue with people who couldn't read well. And that's very much an issue for me, because I have no tolerance for people who are going to argue with me about what the card says. Read the fucking thing. I don't care what you think the card can do. What does it say? So I'm never going to get back into the card game unless it goes into electronic form. It's just too many cards to collect to be on top. There's this YouTuber I watch sometimes. He has a show called Profit, and I really wish I can remember his YouTube name. I'm going to put it in the word box so you could find it. It's going to be overlaid on my screen in post-production. This way I don't look like such an idiot like I'm rambling on now. But he does Profit, and he does a bunch of card strategy videos that tell you what you really need for each tournament to be on top. And he runs some of the numbers, and to be on top consistently, to go to all these tournaments around the country, and sometimes around the world, you gotta pay thousands of dollars. Thousands! I don't mind paying thousands of dollars eventually for games. I'm sure I've already done it. But with games, it's a lot more of an experience. You know, it's not just, oh look, there's the game. That's such a pretty cartridge. That's all cards are, until you find somebody diverse, which is very hard because you need someone physically to be there, and also someone who's competent enough to give you a good strategy test. It's really faulty. So that's why I have, and I hate when my freaking headset falls. There we go. Hopefully the sound doesn't go wacky, but that's why I had to get out of the card game, and let me know if you still play what you think the dragon types will do. Now moving on, see, this is annoying. Look, wah 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 wah. I'm gonna have to put them on my head. That's just the only way. I have to keep one ear open though, because if I don't, all sound is cut off, and then it's like, and I start shouting at the microphone, and nobody wants that. You're just gonna shut me off and say, DeoGenZ, why did you have to have such an annoying podcast with horrible audio quality? It happens. But moving on to news on this channel. So that's another thing that I'd like to do in this podcast. Not only let you know the news with the games that have been going on and things that I've been playing, which we'll get to a segment later on in this show, but I like to let you know what's going on my channel. What's going on with the tech issues that I might be having, because trust me, they are constant, and what is to be expected on this channel. Starting up, what has returned? The Cannabis Correction blog. Yes, my outspoken series about why cannabis should not only be legalized, but should just be non-regulated like grass, regular grass, or tomatoes. And I guess tomatoes are somewhat regulated, you could argue, because they are sold, bought and sold. But that's what I'm trying to bring about as a point, is it's not a hard drug. It's not any of the myths that you've been hearing. The main idea of what the Cannabis Correction blog proposes to do is to eradicate those myths and update you on what the true facts are, the true researched facts, mind you. I don't smoke myself, but I do a heck of a lot of reading. And one of the greatest books I can recommend to you if you're just a casual viewer of this channel but interested in cannabis and maybe don't want to or don't have the time to check out the blogs right away, there's a great book by Jack Herer called The Emperor Wears No Clothes. It was put out a while ago, so some of the data is a little outdated, like the parts where he talks how urine testing is very inaccurate and how sometimes it comes back with false positives, even with people who don't smoke, which ends up getting them a disabled career. And obviously that's awful, because then that's a mark on their record for drug use when they didn't even use any. It was just a mess up with the test. But you don't really have to worry about that these days. Technology has come a ways. But what is really interesting in that book is he goes throughout the history of cannabis in humans and how it's been here our whole lives. It's not something that was just found in the 60s and thwarted by the government because of reefer madness. No, it's been here. It's a plant that we've used for ages, for millennia. Not millennia. We haven't been along that long. Around that long. We haven't been along that long? Interesting. Don't know. But the point is, it has been used all the time. It should be continued to be used in greater amounts too. And you might be thinking, well, DeoGenZ, God, I can't watch this guy anymore. He's a proponent of drugs. But if you watch my blog, you'll see it's more than just a drug. It's a foodstuff, it's a construction material, it's a clothing material, it's a almost anything material if you could really put your mind to it and convert it into that. The great thing about it also is that it's a renewable resource that renews quickly. A lot of people will say, well, you know, trees and other paper sources similar, that's a renewable resource, so we don't mind tearing it down. But trees are one of the largest producers of oxygen, and hemp fields that could be replaced in a couple of seasons rather than 20 years before the tree gets back to full health and back to where it was before you chopped it down. With that being enacted, our resources could be a lot more equalized, and I think we could start to repair the damage that we've done to this environment so drastically. So check that out. You can click on that, and it will take you to the playlist of Cannabis Correction blogs. Now, my hoppage is back. Alright, so the thing that happened with this, and I want to detail it a little bit up because if you're thinking about getting a hoppage, which I do recommend for anybody who's serious about Let's Playing, and anybody who's trying to just do game walkthroughs overall, and present them in good high quality, the component cables on those things are delicate. I moved recently. I moved a couple of months ago. And it seems recently to me because I'm still just like combating my electronic system that seemed to go so haywire when I moved. Case in point, technology does not like to be moved around. And even though I thought that I had everything safely tucked away in boxes, I guess not. The problem is, I think that with component cables being high audio and quality video cables to transmit HD visuals onto a screen and of course capture them with the hoppage's capabilities, I think those are so delicate that if they get crimped and pressed, then it's just going to break up the wire. And whatever filaments, or I don't even know what you would call them, inside the wire, something's getting fucked up in there. That's the point. So be careful when you do get your hoppage not to store the wires in any sort of close quarters where it's going to be pressed against something. I know with wires it can be very easy to just like wrap it up quickly and tightly. It's not something you're going to want to do with a hoppage. And when you get those original cables, you're going to see that it's a mammoth cable. I mean, I've got it, but it's in other rooms, so I'm not going to worry about stopping the podcast to bring it to you. But it's like this huge cable that is about 3 fingers width size, and it's got all of, the red, blue, and green, and the red and white that you need, but it's all next to each other. I don't know why they didn't pile it all into one like that and make it a more bendable wire. So that was part of the problem. That wire to begin with was very unmanageable, not really easy to configure, especially if you've got a desk. It's really hard to shove that thing in the back of it without having it fling up because it's got too much pressure on it. So what I did was I went to Amazon, typed in component cables, and boom, they popped up. I got it for real cheap. And here's the funny thing. My Wii's component cables also broke too. Now with that, I was kind of expecting it because what I did, this is another mistake that you can learn from me, was I have a 360 and I have a Wii. I decided that, hey, I may get a 360 game one day. Probably not, but I did. I got the orange box and I did play Vlad played Portal. I played Portal too, but then he LP'd it for you guys. So I thought, why not get a trifecta cable? And what that is a kind of like a punch-out cassette thing where you can punch the tabs. It's got Wii, PS3, and 360, and then it's got 3 fraying wires that go to the according systems, and then of course it's got the wires that plug into the hoppage or into the TV, wherever you need to connect it to. The issue with that is that it's a wire with moving parts. Even though it is just a simple punching in of that tab to play your console, things can get messed up, and of course moving really proved that. Moving messed up a lot of things for me. It jostled it enough apparently to either undo some of the springs or whatnot, but the wire was called GigaWare. GigaWare makes great products, but I don't recommend a trifecta cable. Not from anyone, though. Not from GigaWare, not from, insert cable company there. Just get a wire solely for that console and get it on Amazon. I'm saying get it on Amazon not because I'm sponsored by them in any way, but they really have the best fucking prices. No lies. I got the component cable for, I think, under $13 for my Wii. So all in all, I think it was, let's say rough estimate, $18 to replace both of those cables, and now it's working beautifully. All my console content is coming up, it's recording, but my next issue, my computer's fucked up too. It's just like an endless list of tech troubles that keeps on piling. But what happened with my computer, and I don't even know what is going on, I still haven't figured it out, and it's a part of why Wi-Fi is so difficult for me to obtain. When I moved, for a couple of months in this house, at least a month, my computer was fine. It was sound. Then I brought my computer someplace, and I guess moving it or something. I really don't. I can't even imagine what fucked it up. I think it was an HP update, to be honest with you, but I'm not going to get all conspiratorial on you. Man, I should really clean the glicks out of my eyes before I start podcasts. I had a late night last night, though. I was making a lot of images and icons for the YouTube. Now that I'm partnered, I can make icons for people to see. So it can be like, insert Let's Play name, episode whatever, and that's really cool. So I was doing that all night, and I'm a little tired. But my hard drive failed when I moved, so I had HP replace it. They replaced it, had a technician come out. I thought everything was fine. Not so fine. Some drivers are apparently missing. A lot of drivers. Service Pack 1 is missing from my computer. But here's the problem. The Wi-Fi doesn't seem to work at all. Not even a little bit. Every time I do it, it says there is a problem that has occurred that's preventing you from connecting. Would you like to run the troubleshooter? I run the troubleshooter. It gives me some random shit error code that tells me nothing. It says a problem is occurring that is preventing the troubleshooter from starting. So I can't even troubleshoot because there's a problem preventing the troubleshoot. Fucking, oh God, shoot me. But thankfully it works with an Ethernet cable, so I'm going to pick myself up like a arm lengths wide of arm's length, not wide. Jeez, I don't imagine a Ethernet cable as long as or as thick as my arm. That would be tremendous. I don't know if it would fit into anything, but lengthwise, I'll pick one up and I'll update things. But it's really frustrating. I don't know why it's doing this. Even when it goes online, even when I can connect, Windows Update won't work. It says, no, you need to restart the program, so I restart it. I restart everything. I try reinstalling the drivers. I reinstall the drivers of my freaking Wi-Fi dongle. I did a system restore. I've restored this computer twice since I've put in the new hard drive, and still it's not working. There's something fucked up, and I wonder if HP gave me some false copy of Windows or, I don't know, unregistered version, because I had no troubles getting online the first time I got it out of the box, and now I can't get it online. Even when there is Wi-Fi available, it can't connect to any points. So it's incredibly frustrating, but thankfully, this little device here, my Android phone, it's keeping me connected. It really is the thing that keeps me updated with my YouTube, with Twitter, with practically everything I need to do online. Of course, surfing the internet can be a little annoying when you have to read the small text and keep zooming in like that, but for the most part it does great because I use the YouTube application, disable the Wi-Fi, and upload straight through 3G. I have an unlimited data plan for my phone, so that's the good thing. I won't have to worry about getting extra charges for running over the data. And it's been enabling me to upload more LPs. One of the LPs that I'm thinking of putting out next, by the time you see this, Mad World will already have been done. But I'm looking for something to fill the void. Metroid Other M is almost done as well, but I'm looking for something to fill the void. So I give you guys an option, because I can do that now as a partner. You can go onto my main channel and vote. What do you want to see as my next LP? Do you want to see Sonic Generations? Or do you want to see Jurassic Park the game that came out last year? I say Jurassic Park the game, and some people may think the game, like what, from 1980 game? Like, wait, no. Jurassic Park didn't even come out then. Fucking A. Whenever Jurassic Park came out, the older games on like the Master Systems and stuff, and the Sega Genesis kind of games, and all those that were poorly programmed and awfully forgotten for a good reason, I'm not referring to that. There is a new game that was put out by Telltale Games, and it's really fun. It's very interesting, but I'll leave it up to you guys. What do you want to see on my channel first? Because eventually I'll put out both of the LPs, but it's a matter of what you guys would like to see the most. Now I know what I'd like to see the most. I'd like to see some dubstep. But how do you see dubstep? It's just an audio file, right? It's just a form of synthetic waves and rhythms that hit your eardrum and travel to the cerebellum just right to produce some super beats. How do you see that? Well, with my new segment, the Dubstep Compilation of the Week. And I opened this up to the public. The first dubstep compilation, of course, is going to come from me because, well, it's the first episode and you guys didn't know about it until now, so derp, of course it's going to come from me. But I leave it open to you guys, the public. Please post a video response to this podcast of a dubstep mix that you've done, kind of like an AMV. And if I'm pretty sure I know what AMV stands for, it stands for A Music Video. If it doesn't, I'm just a complete more-off, but I just didn't know. Make a music video of either anime or gaming. Preferably gaming, since this is a gaming podcast, but I say anime because my first dubstep compilation happens to be Gundam. So I hope you enjoy it. The song is by Noisa, it's called Machine Gun, and it's remixed by 16-bit. So And we are back with the Gaming Gauntlet action. Now to get on to the gaming discussion. What have I been playing recently? Well, I got a lot of games over the holidays, so I'm only going to talk about a select few. I got 4 3DS games. I'm only holding 2 because these are the only 2 I'm going to talk about today, and I'll mention the other 2 next week. I also got the Humble Bundle. Matt Goldsman gifted me Sonic Generations, and I got Jurassic Park, the game. So what I'm going to talk about first is the Humble Bundle. That had a slew of super games, and I'll probably mention a different one each time. Of course, that's considering if I get around to playing it. I have played a good set of the games in there, and some of these games include Jamestown, VVVVVVV, I think it's 6 Vs, and I might have gone over, but whatever. Gratuitous Space Battles, Bit Trip Runner, which I've played both on WiiWare and on the 3DS, which it's Bit Trip Saga right here. And it has Crayon Physics, it's got Night Sky, it's got a whole mess of awesome games. But one of the games that really struck me as hella amazing was this arcade indie shooter called Jamestown. Jamestown takes a altered look at history, and I guess during the colonial times, my personal knowledge of history is shitty, being in the American education system and having his story being full of holes and never really giving you the real story. So what it is an altered look at history. The idea of, what if the colonial times took place on Mars? And you follow this main character who has been exiled from his country, and now it's your job to clear his name somehow by kicking lots of ass and taking no names. You don't need names of the enemies. You just need to fire mass amounts of bullets. That Machine Gun remix that you guys just watched, that's the kind of feeling you have while playing Jamestown. It's really that super. And if you're interested in the game, of course you can see some of the gameplay beside my head right now, but click that video and you'll be taken to the playlist of my Let's Play for that game. Really spectacular game. Beautifully drawn artwork as well. That's something I very highly appreciate about indie games. Since they are indie, and of course they're going to be a little bit low budget, they don't have big studios like Sega and Nintendo, Activision, EA, all that. They don't have those type of resources and funds to produce super high quality graphics. But what they do have is creativity and ingenuity. So oftentimes you're going to see games that will be very simplistic, but very pleasing. That's very much like Night Sky, which was also in the Humble Bundle. I'll just briefly mention. I don't want to get into it too much because I do plan on LPing that game, and when I do, I'll talk about it more then. But that is a game that doesn't really use much graphics at all. It's a lot of geometric patterns, hills, and a lot of ambient colors with music. And that kind of combination, it makes a very unique style of relaxing, puzzling gameplay that makes you want to get to the next section just to see how the programmers have developed the clever puzzles and to see how the beautiful landscapes have been laid out. Because even though something is simple, it can be gorgeous. Hell, go back to Lilt Line. I did that Let's Play a while ago. That is nothing but driving a line to dubstep and with lots of colors. That alone, that was phenomenal in my book. One of the best games I've ever played on WiiWare, tops, period. End of story. But that was not with very much detail. It was not intrinsically hard to come up with those graphics, but to put it together in the way that Gaijin Games did, it was masterful. And I loved playing through it. So Jamestown, it even has an added effect of being artistically beautiful too. Not just simplistic and pleasing, but it is hand-drawn, it seems to be, and it's great. Very many enemy types. That's something that sometimes arcade shooters can get into the habit of doing. They'll say, all right, you've got this circle, he fires this type of bullets. You've got this square, and he fires this pattern of bullets. And of course, you got this rectangle here. Watch out for this motherfucker. He fires missiles and tries to ram you. And sometimes they don't really vary up the enemies. But from level to level you go, there's 5 levels tops, and then a bunch of bonus levels that you could play through. And there's also DLC, too. I think it's only for the ships, though, so unfortunately no new missions, but maybe there will be some. Every time you go, you change what kind of enemies you see. Every enemy you fight is unique to that level, and you'll only see them there. So that's a very pleasing thing, very awesome thing to me, because I love to see detail. I love to see attention to those sort of things. I briefly had an experience to program an RPG with a gaming team. It didn't go as planned. It didn't go great because the people I was programming with were kind of getting on my nerves often. And that's a tip. If you ever want to go into the gaming developing world, you're going to want to have a team that you can trust and that you can tolerate too. Because if you don't like the guy to begin with, you're not going to want to share ideas and try and get both of those things into one game. It just doesn't work, because instead you go head-to-head like rams and nothing ever gets accomplished. You just argue the whole time, and then one of you says forget it, and then walks away, and then nobody wins. It's just not fun. So if you do program games, program with your friends. But that's something that I picked up, was I always would hate when they tried to just make a simple experience with no text files to read, no little details to explore, because me, as a gamer, I'm very much scanning of my environment. I highly check out every corner, nook and cranny that I can find in a game, not only to look at it more, because I enter these worlds to immerse myself in this environment that I couldn't be in otherwise, because it's just unbelievably crazy, and I find enemies there that would not be in my real world. But I do that also to see what kind of effort has the developers put in ways of exploration. That's one of the highest points in any game for me, is when there's a greater exploration value. Even if it's a platformer, and even if there's just some different levels of platforms to take, but can only be accessed in certain ways and certain paths to go to, and Sonic Generations, which we'll talk about later, it does that a lot. I like to explore those regions, and I like to see that they pay attention to those things. It makes me know that these people really gave a shit about what they were programming. They didn't just try and throw it out there, sweep it out as quickly as possible to get a paycheck. They really had heart in this game. The next game that I have been playing is Dead or Alive Dimensions. Here is the 3DS box. Very awesome. And I guess since you're looking at it in the camera, of course all the words are going to be backwards, but doesn't matter. You're listening to my words. So, very awesome. Not too much, yeah, it's just this. It's really nothing in there but the instruction booklet. So if you guys are thinking about getting another Nintendo 3DS game, oh, look at that. That's interesting. It shows you I never knew about the instruction booklet. I never cared to look at it. I never read any instruction booklets from anything. But if you were hoping to get this game and then enter it into your Nintendo points system at Club Nintendo to get some coins, this game is not the one to get. But if you're looking for an awesome fighting game, this is the game to get. There are two main fighters that are out on 3DS right now. It's Street Fighter and Dead or Alive Dimensions. I've never played Street Fighter, and I've never played Dead or Alive Dimensions or any Dead or Alive game. I'm not really a fighter-type gamer. I find it to be mainly button mashing, and I don't have the time, patience, or memory skills, let's just say that, to memorize all these combinations and then go about my days playing the mass amounts of games that I do. I switch so often. I swear I am definitely attention deficit disorder when it comes to my gaming experiences. I want so many experiences all the time that I can't be settled with one. I can't just say, well, I got this one game. I've got about like 10 others that I could play, but I'm only going to play this one game for 1 month, and then I'll move on to the next. I would get bored. I have to play all these experiences all the time, but it's not to say that that game's a boring game. It's very epic, and for me only being a Smash Bros. Fighter, because that's the only system I could memorize. Give me a button layout to memorize that is going to stay the same for every character, and I could do that. Tell me to do button combos with taps and swishes and forget you. I'm not going to care. But the good thing is, this game is accessible for anyone. If you suck at fighting games, don't worry. It's got a great way to teach you throughout its main story. And don't pick this game up for the main story. Don't think that, oh yeah, a fighting game with an epic story. Not really. I kind of compare it to the Subspace Emissary of Brawl. And the only reason that was epic was because you got to see all of your favorite characters interacting with each other. And that's the same thing with this game. It's very interesting, though, the way they do the cutscenes. It's different than the Subspace Emissary in that it's not fully rendered in movement. It's kind of a weird style. I mean, it is definitely a stylistic move. Either that or the developers were like, you know what? We did enough work. Let's not animate these cutscenes. Because the whole time you're watching them, it's just a bunch of still characters standing around, sometimes changing poses, like as if they're in figures, and they're just talking to each other like that. So you'll be looking at an epic cutscene, and all the while the characters are just... And then it switches. And yeah! And that's the entire cutscene. It's kind of weird, but still really cool. And aside from the non-rendering of movement for it, the game is gorgeous. Every aspect of it as well. She's not on the cover for nothing. That's Kasumi, by the way. I didn't know that until I played this game. She's one of my favorite. The titillation in this game, not going to lie. I'm just going to say it right out front. Of course, a lot of review sites like to dance around it, but dude, 3D boobies! They're awesome. It's awesome to see them in a fighting way, of course, you know, because you could see 3D tits just by going outside your door. Of course, you got to watch yourself, because if you don't know a person, you might be smacked. But it's very cool to have 3D boobies in my pocket at any time that can kick ass. It's hot. It's fun. It's great. And shit, it addicts you. It really does. It's like, for the player who's not the masterful fighter, I do wonder what Kasumi would look like in this costume. And then you're playing for hours, just trying to unlock different costumes for the character. I'm a man. What can I say? It's a part of our biological propensity to keep producing. That's the point of life. Keep making more life. Whether you like it or not, that's how it works. And our brains are reactive to it. So maybe you're a female and you're like, oh, damn it. Only 3D boobs. No, my female friends. There are rippling 3D abs. I was like, if I was homosexual, I'd be getting an erection looking at that guy. Holy shit. Look at his muscles. And oftentimes, with some of the more buff characters, their costumes are no costumes. Not completely no costumes. They still have pants on. Don't get too excited, ladies. But no costumes, shirtless, so you could see their rippling ab muscles, which, of course, as a gamer, I have not. None. Do not want them either. It is a do not want process, because I figure every moment I spend wasting in the gym to build up stupid fucking muscles, this all comes from gaming, hardcore gaming. Just pressing buttons all the time. Every moment I'm wasting in a gym doing that bullshit is a moment that I'm not playing an epic video game that could be changing my life. I've never picked up a barbell and said, oh, I feel enlightened. I've played through every game and learned something crazy and came up with some kind of interesting element to observe. But the most blatantly obvious element of why you want to pick this game up is it's sexually driven. It's sexually driven. Does it have? Yes, it does. Okay. It has a teen rating, so if you can't get the game because you're not a teen and your parents are like, well, you're not, and we are strict, so fuck you, then I'm sorry. But you have something to look forward to when you are a teenager. The fighting is solid, too. It's not just about the graphics. It's not just about the pretty girls and guys, but the fighting is fun as well. I wish I could tell you if it was really more competent compared to past Dead or Alive games, but I've never played one. I haven't. This has been my first experience, and it's an awesome one. It's highly recommendable, as being the only fighting game out there on 3DS that... sorry, not the only one. The only one I care about now, because the way I see it, not being a main fighter gamer, and sucking like I do. The times that I do get onto Wi-Fi, the times that I'm at a Wi-Fi cafe, I've tried going online, tried taking on opponents, and either they won't verse you because they have the option apparently to see your card and see your stats, and me, no wins, no losses, just nothing. They're not too keen on that. They want to fight somebody of their own skill level, which is understandable. It's like in Pokemon. I don't want to verse a noob who doesn't even know what EV training is, but it's a lot easier to find Pokemon players that you could get on the same strategy level as. Not so much with these fighting games. If you suck at fighting games like I do, you're probably not going to have a lot of fun with the Wi-Fi. And that's just the fact. Unless you get better. And you might very well get great. If you keep playing after you unlock all the costumes, then I can guarantee you're going to get much better. And I think that the reason I am such a Smash Bros. Holic is that I've played since Melee. That was my first Smash Bros. Game ever. When I got my first console ever, that being the GameCube. So I played that game night and day, which means I learned the GameCube controller very well. In fact, this is the same GameCube controller, my original controller. You can kind of see that it's worn away on the back there, that I got with my original GameCube. Unfortunately, I don't think I have my original GameCube anymore. I gave it to my brother, and he's one of those kids who likes to take everything apart to see what's inside and reconfigure it in some sort of happenstance. But whatever. I got the controller. I've got the memory chip, the memory card, so that's all that matters. And, oh, yeah, that reminds me. I forgot to tell you guys in the news. But, since Chugga announced and is doing his Pokemon Emerald walkthrough, that was going to be the walkthrough that I would do my Nuzlocke challenge on after Crystal was complete, fully complete. I mean, I am doing the Kanto Adventures as well, people. That is the complete game in my book. But I was going to do it after that, and now that he's doing it currently, I take no anger towards it. I love Chugga. He's part of the reason that I am an LPer today. I watched his stuff, got inspired, learned about the terms, learned that there was a community and that it was an option of something to do, and now I'm a partner. So I am not mad at him at all. But what I am doing, just because I realize competing with a larger LPer, I'm really not going to get much views. Nobody's going to give a shit. You guys, hardcore audience who watches this podcast, surely would. But I'm going to hold it off probably till fall of 2012, maybe even later. Maybe even till 2013. I don't know. It depends. We're going to have to see how the reaction is. Comment in the podcast comment section below. If you guys are really adamant on seeing some Emerald action, then let me know. Instead, though, what I am going to be doing is Pokemon Coliseum to fill the void. And I will be starting that probably after Metroid Other M is complete. So expect that relatively soon. But that was just something that I forgot, and then the talk about the GameCube brought it up to memory. So with Dead or Alive Dimensions, if you continue to play it very often, you're going to get much better at it. And the scenes that you can see, the stages that you can play on, are gorgeous. I think that's another thing that really makes me see this as the only fighting game worth having on 3DS, is that the scenes, it's very hard to fully depict. I wish that I had some way to capture my 3DS footage to present it to you guys much better. The way that it appears is so gorgeous that you can look around in the environment with the gyroscope on the title screen, and it goes through all the different stages. It's really awesome to see all the detail that was put in there. So much so that I guess this is something typical to Dead or Alive franchise, but if you kick somebody off of a railing, they're not just going to fall and poof into an invisible imaginary hole of doom like we do in Smash Bros. They're going to fall into another part of the level. And that's really a big motivator to keep playing levels you love over and over again. One of my favorite levels, speaking about Metroid Other M, by the way, is a Metroid Other M inspired level, which is, yeah, okay, it's already been premiered. I'm like, did we fight that guy? I don't know if I want to ruin this. But yes, it's Ridley's stage. Remember when we fought Ridley? If you don't, you could check out the playlist and then you'll remember. But that stage that you fight him on there is a stage in Dead or Alive Dimensions. And he is there. I don't think Samus is there. I have not seen Samus ever appear. But if you kick your opponent off the edge, sadly like Anthony fell. But if you do, if you bunt him off, Ridley will grasp them up out of the midair. They won't fall into the lava. Oh no, that would be too pleasant of a death. Ridley grasps them, flies up to the wall, and crushes you, or crushes your opponent, hopefully, against the wall, then looks you in the face. Charging my fire! And blows the shit out of your opponent with flaming balls of fury. It's awesome and amazing in 3D. I'm really a big fan of 3D, you're going to come to learn, and I try to experience everything I can in 3D. Which also reminds me, I should have probably put this in the news segment or something like that. Oh well, this is the first impromptu podcast. I'm not doing this with any script, it's just me rambling on about what I like. So what you might like, though, is to be a part of my 3DS Friends Club. It's not so much a club as it is a list of friends that I collect online and offline by getting their codes. Pow! That's my friend code there, and if you don't have your 3DS available, then check the description below. But if you enter that in, comment below with yours, I'll enter yours in, and through Swap Note, you may receive, oftentimes, 3D images. The best thing about Swap Note, and I probably should have talked about that in the news too, because that's something new, but again, first podcast, not even thinking about that. But what's really cool is with 3DS Swap Note, not only do you get to write notes to people, so you could talk to them and say, hey, check this out, or hey, I liked your video, or hey, you want a battle? You could also send them 3D photos. Yes! And what's very cool about that, especially if you are a Pokemon connoisseur like me, is I have a lot of these guys. A lot of exclusive figures that I love to see in 3D. See, this is very boring what you're looking at right here. It's flat. Look at that. Flat. Oh, man. I mean, it's not flat in my world. Look at this. 3D! My eyes are going crazy. Yours, however, I feel bad for you. But get on my 3DS friend list, and you'll be sent numerous photos of 3D Pokemon figures in different poses, in different action sequences, and the fun thing about the fact that it is Swap Note is that I can write notes on them. So I could say, look at this. Chikorita's gonna evolve. Ba, 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 ba. Animation! And then to the next screen. And then, boom. Bayleaf! Unfortunately, I don't have a Meganium figure, so I wouldn't be able to do the full evolution. But I do have Bayleaf. So that's a side note there. Very cool to do. I love 3DS, and you're going to love it too. And speaking of figures, that's another awesome thing that Dead or Alive Dimensions do. It's the fact that with all fighting games, it seems... no, not all fighting games, I shouldn't say that. I don't even know fighting games, really. But with this one, and like I've experienced with the fighting games I have played, like Smash Bros., you have trophies to collect. Glorious trophies! It's a real game for the collection hog out there. Not only for the perverts like me and others. I'm kidding. I don't know why people automatically assume that you're a pervert for liking to see attractive men and women in scantily clad clothing. Anyway, aside from unlocking all those interesting costumes that you could dress your fighters in, you could also unlock different trophies of fighters. Different ones meaning different poses, different costumes, different everything. And the cool thing is, those awesome stages that you were fighting in for so long, you can now look in without having to worry about getting your ass kicked. That's something that's always leads to my demise often, because I'm like, ooh, look at the pretty 3D tree! Oh, I got a KO! Shit! I should have been paying attention to my combos, not the freaking rocks off to the side that were jutting out at me. But that's the cool thing. When you look at the game in trophy mode, and you align all the trophies in different forms, unfortunately, I think you can only look at one trophy at a time. If I'm wrong on this, let me know, because, man, it'd be cool to make a bunch of trophies and make a diorama in a place, in a stage. But that's the cool thing, is you could use the gyroscope to look around with your 3DS and get different perspectives, different image areas. So it's like you're doing a real 3D photo shoot of this cool fighter, whatever it is that you like to take a picture of. And all the while you get to enjoy the stages that you've been fighting through, and now you get to just enjoy them. And of course, you can go back and look at your pictures anytime. Now that's something I need to check out. Can you then send those pictures to people through SwapNote? Ho ho ho, now that would be freaking amazing. I don't know, I've never done it before, but it would be a cool feature. So moving on, another 3DS game that I also got this holiday season is Bit Trip Saga. It's awesome. What it is, let me just read the back for you. It's Beat, Core, Void, Runner, Fate, and Flux. 6 complete games, 80 levels of gameplay, 5 acclaimed chiptune artists, 25 story cutscenes, countless hours of fun. Yes, it motherfucking is. Look at that back. Look at that Commander video glory. It's awesome. It's funny, though, that they said 25 story cutscenes. I personally would have left that little factor out. Yes, they have cutscenes in between every level, but they're very basic. Very basic, and sometimes I have difficulties seeing the 3D. I guess it is because it's in standard definition. Me and Matt Goldsman go back and forth with this conversation all the time. Like, I don't even know if I'm seeing 3D. I don't know. But Bit Trip Saga, it's an awesome collection. Even if it wasn't in 3D, I would pick this one up. It's got new controls for Beat, and it has it for Flux and Fate. The rest of it is pretty much typical, just using a circle pad, which is kind of like the same thing as using the C-stick on, or not the C-stick, the nunchuck on the Wii. And you, with Runner, you press all the face buttons, like the directional pad, and all A, B, Y, and X buttons to pull off moves. But with Beat, Fate, and Flux, you get to integrate the stylus control into there. And that is so specific. It makes controlling the game so much easier to do because you got more of a direct feel, more of a direct feed, I feel, into the paddle. Because Bit Trip Beat, I don't know why I wanted to say Core, because Core is the one with the coordinate plane on it. But Beat and Flux are the Pong-style games that back on the Wii, you had to kind of, paddle style back and forth. And that was fun. I did enjoy that. And originally I was a little bit not wanting to use the touchscreen because I don't like touchscreen gaming too much. I don't like destroying my touchscreen. So any game that requires me to use it more than just tapping out simple selection options makes me a little uneasy. But I realize that all tech is going to break eventually. I might as well enjoy the shit out of it now while I still can. So don't let that stop you guys. Fate also uses the touchpad. It uses it for a cursor control. Since it's a arcade shooter, kind of like Jamestown, but not as intense. A lot more slow-paced and a lot more rhythm-based and puzzle strategy. It's almost like a maze with bullets. That's the best way I can explain it to you, because it is a shooter, and it requires you to think on your feet and go on the line, because you're on an actual line. You're on a rail that you can't break off of, so you have to be timing things right. You have to be looking for where your enemies are coming from, how their attack patterns are, and it's really fun to come up with strategies to beat it, and of course, get into the glorious Giga mode. Giga is one of my favorite things in the world. It's this intense, pink, glossy, beautiful in 3D type of a mode where all of the sound is enhanced, your power is multiplied by 1,000,000, all the special power-ups that you get become even stronger, like the Meat Boy power-up, it turns into a giant meat paddle. The DNA Blaster, which is Robotube, I like to call it DNA Blaster because it's a helix-shaped beam. It instead of just having the helix, which leaves an opening in the center because it goes like this and this and this into your enemies, it has a straight line going through that, which makes it a lot more of an effective weapon. Commander Video Girl, who allows Commander Video to spit out bullets from both sides, up and down, left and right, however you configure with your touch pad, it fires out a sun of bullets, just rays of bullets. It's a net of bullets, and it's almost impossible for any enemy to get through that line of defense. But make sure you watch their bullets, because that Giga mode can be ended so abruptly when you're not paying attention. I think the Bit Trip saga, for one, I don't know if a lot of people know even about the Bit Trip series, which originated on WiiWare. I had a lot of conversations with the creator, Alex Noisy, and I'd like to get him in on this podcast too. Of course, it's really hard to do when I don't have Wi-Fi on my computer, but once I get the Ethernet cable, think about where I can go that will allow me to plug in and talk at the same time. That's another problem. I have a library at my school that has Ethernet ports, but it's a library. Can't exactly do interviews there. But Alex Noisy's a great guy, awesome programmer, and unfortunately not many people got to see his game on WiiWare because so many people didn't care about Wii. Everybody was downtrodden it. Everybody was saying, Wii's sucks, Wii's for casual, Wii's for babies. But meanwhile, because of this inability to just look at what Wii has, they missed out on so many great games. Not only just WiiWare games like the Bit Trip series, but awesome ones like Mad World, Dead Space Extraction, No More Heroes, Muramasa the Demon Blade. The list goes on and on. I've got so many games to play for you guys on my list of LPs. It's ridiculous. And a lot of them I haven't even gotten through fully myself, but I know that they're awesome games. So if you missed out on this Bit Trip series, you definitely want to get this saga. It's all of the games wrapped up in a one package, and it is a good bargain too. I don't know the exact numbers anymore because certain games were like $10, certain games $15 on WiiWare, but I don't remember. But I remember looking at it. It does do a good justice to your wallet. I was going to say it does a good check, and I'm like, it doesn't check anything. It's good on the wallet, and it's really the best game to have in your pocket too. That was one problem that I ran into. I guess it wasn't really a problem. I didn't think of it as a problem until playing it now on 3DS. And that is that the way that Bit Trip is set out is that it's very much like an arcade game where you're going for the highest score, you're trying to beat your own top score, and of course the other scores that are already programmed onto the board. Sadly, no online leaderboards. That is just a big bummer. I don't know why they didn't include that in the 3DS version, but they didn't. So you're just trying to get the high score and beat your own high score, and you kind of forget by getting a WiiWare application that you even like to play that game all the time, which you do. What makes this game so awesome, not only because of the great graphical stylings, is the chiptune artists. Those 5 acclaimed chiptune artists, people like Null Sleep, people like Bubbly Fish, those are why you show up to the game. It's to hear those compositions, and it sounds great. It feels so addicting and so satisfying to be playing to the beat and producing the beat too, because you've got the background sound created by the chiptune artists, but you're composing the main orchestra by hitting all the beats, by destroying all the enemies, or by absorbing all the bits that you need to with your void. Of course, yeah, hitting all the beats with core also works. You just have to do it in a different way. So having this in your pocket at all times is fantastic, because at any time I get free time, it's just like, I'm feeling like Bit Trip. What song am I in the mood for? I'm thinking Fate Frustration, and then I just go and play that game, and it's so liberating to have it at any time in my pocket, just to access it, always. Always access it, and always keep upgrading my score. It's a great feeling, and I highly recommend it. Awesome game. The next game that I've been playing is Jurassic Park, and the other game that I've been playing is Sonic Generations. I'm going to talk about them briefly because I don't want to skew your views on which LP you want to see first. Jurassic Park the game, very interesting. It's all about QuickTime events. Unlike Trespasser, which I also LP'd on this channel, which was just a wreck of glitches and really didn't turn out to be an awesome experience, but it could have been, but it was just too open. Jurassic Park the game takes a completely different approach to how you play and locks you down to a very set storyline. It has you play through, and trust me, it's nerve-wracking. Don't think for a moment, just because you can't run away from dinosaurs as you would in Trespasser, that it's not an intense experience. It totally is. And it will make you shit your pants at times when you can't click the buttons fast enough, or you do the wrong one and your head's bitten off by a raptor. It's awesome. Sonic Generations, however, it's awesome too. No, it's hard to say. It's hard to compare those two because they're such vastly different games. No, but Jurassic Park's really awesome game, and very much like you're playing through another movie. It's like Jurassic Park after the first movie. You know, when everybody exited the island, what happens after? What happens to the stragglers? So it's very interesting for anybody who loves those movies or loves dinosaurs in general. But if you love Sonic, if you're a Sonic fan, then Sonic Generations is the biggest fan service I've ever played through. I myself am not a huge Sonic fan, but after playing that game, I certainly am now. And I still haven't done the research that I should into which games of his are great and not so great, but I am going to have to look into some of his past games. It's a beautiful combination between classic and modern Sonic, the classic platforming that we all know and love and have had throughout Sonic's history, and the modern Sonic mode, when you're rushing headfirst into the level. You see all the beautiful graphics passing through you, or passing by you. This, being made by Sega, this is one of the games with high quality value in it. Good budget behind it allowed for great graphics to be produced. And it's expected. You know, it's the difference between indie and main franchise, but that's why I say that I'm not exclusively an indie gamer or exclusively a main franchise guy. I am just here for the most awesome experience. So, Sonic Generations, really cool. Jurassic Park, really awesome as well. Which would you like to see first, however? Go vote on my channel, of course, after watching this. And, if you've got something to do, I probably should have mentioned this in the first place, because right away, people seeing an hour long, or of course hour plus long, I already know it's going to be longer than an hour, people who see a video that is that long on YouTube may be turned away saying, I don't want to watch an hour podcast, I can't have the attention span for that. The good news is that when you leave a long video like that, and you come back to it, it starts off where you left off. So, no problems. I'll see you later when your attention is renewed. But to keep your attention up into something awesome about gaming, we're going to go over to DeoGenZ's Crafting Corner. And yes, Vladimir has a Minecraft LP. You could check it out here. But I don't have a Minecraft LP, and I do a lot of crafting. So every podcast, every week, you will get to see what I've been doing off to the side in my own Minecraft world. I'll take you on a brief tour. It won't be like a Let's Play like Vladimir Z, but it will give you an idea of what I'm doing in my own world, which is definitely interesting to watch because I have experienced different things than old Vladdy has, for example, villages. So, enjoy. Okay, well, for some unknown reason, Fraps does not want to capture Minecraft, although it captures all my other gameplay, so inexplicable, probably something to do with my lack of computer drivers. Anyway, we're going to do snapshot stories of what happened last week in Minecraft. Last week I made a completely new world, and I had one mission: find an NPC village. I went out to the desert, and lo and behold, there it was. A beautiful desert village for me not to plunder, but become a part of. I thought it was too easy just to take all the resources from these people who don't even fight back. Unless, of course, you kill their different color robed guy. But I decided to make my house out of one of the other NPC's homes. He soon flew the coop when he saw that I was constructing something more onto his very small cottage. Too bad, too, because I wouldn't have minded a roommate. But, c'est la vie, the NPCs, they come and go as they please. And you know, the NPCs, they kind of bother me. I try being nice to them, I try giving them food, I try giving them seeds, I try giving them meat, I even tried making them a cake, and they were not interested at all. So I said, well, you know, I do want an NPC village full of NPCs, so it at least has the illusion that this is a well-maintained village, since they don't really care about their own well-being. Heck, The guy in the white robe who originally was running the town left the library, went in my basement after I coaxed him in there, and he got blown up by a creeper. I did not count on that to happen, nor was I wishing it on him, but now he's gone, and it's up to me to take care of the village. So, I had to eliminate the threat from creepers and zombies and spiders, which were very high rate of spawn on the sand. I mean, geez, you'd think there was a spawner right next to that village or something with the amount of creepers and weirdos that I found. Oh, don't even get me started on the Endermen. They were everywhere. So I decided to make a sand wall. One, because sand is everywhere in that village, so I would have no problems mining for more resources, shoveling away at the sand. And two, cacti grew in the sand. That's the only place they grow I know of. So I was able to not only construct a wall to keep all my NPCs inside of my town, and it's a large wall, it's got lots of space, don't think I'm trying to squeeze the town out. I run things now, so I want this town to be as large and prosperous as possible. But it's a large wall with cacti around it. And once I grow more cacti, I'm going to put pieces at the top of the wall. This way, any spiders that think they can topple any height limit of jump will be sadly mistaken. Spiky mistaken. To make sure my villagers and I had plenty of food to eat, I started constructing a barn. However, since building materials were still scarce and the wall was not fully built, I was having a lot of trouble with creepers. I ended up building an underground farm that started underneath my garden. Since there was sand everywhere, anywhere else I tried to make a garden or barn or storage area would just topple within itself, especially when creepers came along. So I eventually built a much better barn and got established well with wheat. Afterwards, I looked around the town and I thought, there's something missing. NPCs. Sure, I've got a couple of them, but my town is so wonderful now, I feel as though maybe it should propagate, maybe it should grow. Maybe I should go out and find more NPCs. So I did. I went to a neighboring village in a far desert away, quite far away from my original village, but what I thought was that if I went to these people, reasoned with them, told them about my village and told them the benefits of safety and hunger lacking that they would have if they came over, they'd be provided with warm housing, a good smelting area, and many other amenities. They didn't bite. I tried convincing them they wouldn't go for it. So, much like moving cattle, I started constructing fences around the NPCs. I would dig them into the ground and then lead them to where I need them to be, inside one giant pen. Once they were all collected together, and this was quite the task, let me tell you. Once they were all collected together, we started to move across the desert into the marshlands and towards my village, where I haven't reached yet, but I probably will next week. Here's a tip for you though. If you plan to go ravage a village, make sure you have a safe house. I took refuge in the library, but even that was a little risky. I would even go so far as to say, harvest some of their building pieces like I did. And yes, I struck the town with a gigantic water scare of some sort. I guess typhoon from nowhere, typhoon from the sky in the desert is what destroyed this village. Really, me and my axe did in my bucket of water. But steal some of their resources and build yourself your own safe house with torches away from the town, because when you're sitting within one of their buildings, creepers are trying to get you from every angle. Slendermen are everywhere. And I said Slenderman, but they are Endermen, just based off of Slenderman. And you'll have a much better chance collecting your NPCs when there aren't explosions going off every 5 seconds, ending up killing most of them. Sadly so, very similar to how it worked within my village. The guy in the white robe, there was 2 of them, believe it or not. They both died. Those guys have very low health, but c'est la vie. We're all traveling to my new village now, where we'll be safe and sound. Of course, we've got to make it there first. We are back, and finally we can get to the EV Train Pokemon of the week. This week on my EV Training blog, which is available at my website right here, I decided to train a Ferrothorn. What made me decide to do this? Well, recently I went back into Pokemon Black after a very, very long time of not playing it whatsoever. After I caught all the legendaries, I was like, I don't have Wi-Fi. Why do I even care anymore? It was sad, but it was a realistic pain, because I can't verse anybody on Wi-Fi anymore. All the EV training battles that I love doing, all the EV training that I'm doing here, so I can give you guys more information and also build up a strategy guide of my own for great Pokemon to raise. I can't enact any of that because I can't verse anyone over the Wi-Fis. So I went back to Pokemon Black and was like, let me see what my main game was doing. Might as well. I mean, I hardly know the 5th gen. I should probably know them a bit better. And I saw that I was in the Battle Dome. So I was like, who am I training? And it was Ferrothorn. I was raising him from a Ferro Seed, or I hope it's a Ferro Seed. Man, if it's not, I'm an idiot. But oh well, Ferrothorn. And it's a very awesome Pokemon. It's like this gigantic... It almost looks like it has a Magneton body. Not Magneton, sorry. Magnezone body. And, except it's a grass type and electric, not a... What did I just say there? Grass and electric? No. It's a grass and a steel type, idiot. Derp. Yeah, it's a grass steel as opposed to Magnezone being steel electric. But it's got these cool tentacles that come out and help it walk around on its vines. And it's very interesting. It's a wall. I raised it up as a wall and an offensive wall at that. What's really cool about offensive walls, I think I've done maybe one other offensive wall on my EV training. I can't even think of the right letters anymore. EV Training blog. What's very awesome about it is that these walls can retaliate. While people try and figure out, shit, how am I going to break this thing down? You're already breaking down their defenses, and they have to scurry and scramble to try and pick everything up before you defeat them with the wall that they were originally trying to find a strategy around. So, if you want to get more information on how to raise a Ferrothorn, check out that website. But something exclusive to this blog that I can't promise will happen every time, but does happen every time I make a EV training entry into this book, is that I like to draw the Pokemon. There we go. And that's my version of Ferrothorn. Yeah, of course, letters are backwards, but who cares? You're looking at the picture there. I find that if I scan these things in and then put it on the blog, it doesn't come out the right way. It's a lot better to show you guys on camera, so that's pretty cool. That gives you a little inkling on what I was doing this week in gaming and in Pokemon. And now, sadly, we've come to the conclusion of our show. Not sadly, though. Happily so, because it was a successful show, I feel, and I learned a lot. A lot. I'm lying. But what I do want to do for the next show is keep it going and keep the segments different. I don't want to change the segments each time. Like every time I plan to do a dubstep compilation, every time I'm going to go over what I've been playing. Gaming philosophy didn't happen this time just because we ran out of time, and I didn't want to keep you here for 2 hours. That would just be a little too much to ask of my people, and I don't think anybody would stay for that, really. So we're going to discuss the gaming philosophy that I left out next week on RPGs. The reason I had so much to talk about now was just because the holidays just passed. Trust me, things will have a lot greater philosophical discussions when there are less games out, less new games out that I've been playing, and I'm just talking to you about some of the other deeper thoughts I've had about these games that I've played over and over again. But one segment I can't do now because it's the first episode, but we'll love to do next time, is commenting questions. comment below. What is your question? Type this question of the week, QOW, and then your question. This way, if you wanted to say something else in the comments section, like, oh yeah, I still play the Pokemon card game series, and the Dragon types, not going to make a difference, then I will know what your comment is separate from with your question. So QOW, and then your question, what you would like to ask me personally. It can be gaming, it can be something else in my life, it could be about LPing, it could be whatever you come up with. I can't guarantee I'll answer all your questions. It's really going to be based on how much time is left over, but the questions that get the most thumbs up, I'm going to see them first. So if you go through the comment section before you comment yourself and you see a comment or question that is similar to yours or one you'd like answered too, then thumb that one up, because the more I see the comments at the top, which is probably what I'm going to see first, of course, then those are the ones that will most likely make it into next week's episode. Also, since I don't have any comments to read off this week, there is one YouTuber that I'd like to give a shout out, and that is Blue Kaizo Brother. Blue Kaizo Brother made me my new icon that you guys see currently with Deoxys and my logo and DGZ in the space, and I think it is badass. So check out my channel, not only because of that, but thanks to Blue Kaizo Brother. Check out his channel. He is an LPer as well, so if you're looking for more LPs to watch, something different than my content, you should check him out. But not only has that changed on my channel, but now with partnership, I have a banner at top. I have my trainer card on the side at the end of my description, which is really cool. It's my favorite Pokemon from Crystal, what my original team was, or what I would have liked it to be had I had somebody to trade with to get a Gengar, of course. And where it says all the badges, I just inserted the games that I've done, the main Pokemon RPG games, into that little spot. So it's kind of cool to see the LPs that I've done and am doing now, like Crystal, and how many RPG games that I've gone through. I do, of course, have other Pokemon LPs I've done, like Pokemon Rumble, Pokepark Wii, but they're not the main RPG series, so they'll stay off the badge section. But it's really cool, and I like also the fact that I can ask you guys direct questions like things to vote on, such as what should be my next walkthrough or Let's Play. So check that out. Go to my channel. Vote Jurassic Park or Sonic Generations, which you would like to see more first. And check out the new designs on there. The banner, the awesome image by Blue Kaizo Brother, and my trainer card. It's all awesome things. And I will see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in.
The desire to be connected with the cosmos reflects a profound reality. We are connected, not in the trivial ways that the suicides of astrology promises,